The moment. This event hits like a calculated brick dropped from a high floor. Looking at the sky for June 12th, 2026, the sun sits exactly at the midheaven, the highest point in the chart, conjoined by a mere fraction of a degree. In mundane astrology, this isn't a whisper, it's a declaration. The decision to halt foreign access to Anthropic's models wasn't a quiet regulatory adjustment that slipped through the cracks. It was a deliberate, highly public flex of executive power, designed to be seen and to send a signal. The Sun-Mars conjunction in the US chart, where the transiting Sun hits natal Mars, underscores this. The state is acting aggressively, protecting its strategic interests with military-grade precision. But the character of the moment is defined by tension. The Sun squares the ascendant, suggesting a clash between the government's public face and the reality on the ground. There is friction here, a dissonance between the stated reasons, national security, control, and the immediate chaos it causes for the market. We are also in a period of rising cyclic volatility, where the index is climbing toward dispersal, meaning that this event isn't a static lockdown, it's a catalyst. The air is unstable, and this decision acts as the spark in a room full of gas. With Uranus square the nodes of the moon, we are witnessing a sudden, jarring break from the previous trajectory of OpenAI. The timeline just snapped, what it touches. To understand why Anthropic specifically is bearing the brunt of this, we have to look at the company's founding chart against the heavy transit of Pluto. Anthropic is currently undergoing a Pluto conjunction to its natal Saturn. This is the signature of a total structural overhaul. In a corporate entity, Saturn represents the rules, the boundaries, and the physical container of the business. Pluto is the force of the state, of coercion, and of inevitable transformation. The US government, represented by Pluto in this dynamic, is effectively excavating Anthropic's foundation. This is not a partnership, it is a hostile restructuring of the company's soul from the outside in. The United States itself is feeling the weight of Saturn squatting on its natal sun. The nation's identity, currently tied to being the hub of technological innovation, is being throttled by Saturn, planet of borders, limits, and the establishment. The US is saying no, reasserting its sovereignty through contraction. This transit, Saturn square the Sun, explains the hardline stance. The administration is willing to take a hit to its reputation for open markets in favor of rigid control. Synastry between the entity and the nation reveals the root of the conflict. Anthropic's Pluto opposes the United States' Mercury. In plain terms, Anthropic holds the ultimate intellectual weapon, represented by Pluto, that directly threatens how the US communicates and gathers intelligence, represented by Mercury. That opposition creates a zero-sum game. The US cannot permit that power to flow outward freely without feeling its own leverage slipping away. This creates a pressure cooker environment, reflected by Anthropic flying staff to DC, a desperate attempt to negotiate the terms of their surrender, how it rolls forward. The arc of this situation was written into the sky months before June 12th. As Saturn moved into Aries in the spring, the tone shifted from negotiation to enforcement. The Amazon CEO talks, mentioned in the background, were likely the last-ditch effort to avoid this collision. But once Mars, a planet of conflict, entered the mix, the gloves came off. The June 12th event is the peak of this pressure. Looking forward, the astrology suggests this isn't a temporary blip. It is the new normal. We are moving toward a heavy, complex summer of outer planet aspects in July and August, the Jupiter-Pluto opposition, and the Uranus-Pluto trine point to a massive restructuring of global power dynamics. The crackdown on Anthropic will force a bifurcation of the AI ecosystem. Watch for a deepening split between US-aligned tech infrastructure and the rest of the world. The total solar eclipse in Leo on August 12, 2026, serves as the exclamation point on this chapter. Leo rules kings and sovereignty. An eclipse here likely marks the moment other nations retaliate or accelerate their own sovereign AI projects to stop relying on US goodwill. The period between now and then is the cleanup. Anthropic will likely emerge from this Pluto transit transformed, smaller perhaps, but fully nationalized in spirit if not in law. The fog clears, but the landscape looks permanently different. Intuitive overlay. There is a feeling of the tower in the air. Structures built on high assumptions are collapsing. Yet, there is also the presence of the emperor reversed. The authority figure is present, but their rule is rigid and detached from the emotional needs of the people involved. It's a cold administrative summary. The astrological signature of this event depicts a hostile state takeover of corporate destiny, marking a hard pivot from technological globalization to nationalist protectionism. First, we see regulatory transformation. where Anthropic's structural identity fundamentally changes as the government exerts control with Pluto conjunct natal Saturn. Next, sovereign assertiveness, as the US acts aggressively to secure its assets, prioritizing power over openness through the Sun conjunct natal Mars. This leads to market bifurcation, where the global tech landscape begins to fracture as the US hardens its borders under Saturn square the natal Sun. We also anticipate sovereign retaliation, as foreign powers accelerate their own AI independence strategies following the Leo eclipse. Finally, this marks the end of an open era. The free flow of information age officially ends, replaced by restricted, fortified zones of influence due to Uranus square the nodes. This is not a glitch in the system, it is the system installing an update we cannot refuse.